Oh, and she got mad, got her brother and his people to come to his house to try to kill him and his brother.
And he ended up killing them, right?
Capping them off with an AK. Well, what is it, Jermaine? AR or something? And he's guilty.
How?
They said it's not considered stand your ground because they while they were scuffling or whatever, they were scuffling going towards the car, which is away from his house. So because he got his gun and came back out into the street to shoot them, because they're also still beating up his brother.
That's very real.
So and then the girlfriend supposedly deleted all the text messages. They know she deleted all the text messages of her telling like her brother and them to like kill him and stuff. And she is, it's crazy. He was telling me a little bit, but I was like, this sounds crazy as hell.
You can't use the stand your ground because they weren't on his property anymore. And the fact that he went in the house and came back out meant that he could have stayed in the house.
Mm-hmm. And
then you can't use the castle law or castle whatever, meaning like you're protecting your castle because they were in the street. But when you don't have the complexion for protection, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's just what that is. You know, it is the law, so you can't get mad because that's the law. But
you said the complexion. What did you say? The complexion.
Complexion for protection.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my sister, she laid a hard one on my heart today. You know, today's my mom's birthday. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't feeling good earlier today, so I kind of slept all day to get to say happy birthday to my mom. But I was withholding my happy birthday because there was a situation, we were talking about a pet dying or whatever situation that had gone on with my sister. And we were talking about my niece, like, you know, did she ask for a pet that had gone on to glory? So she was like, she don't really understand it because if you say it's dead, she means like charge it because all she knows is the cell phone. So she was like, you think you know everything about pets or whatever. I was like, I don't watch Nature's. I didn't have, you know, whatever. And she was like, you're the reason that all, you know, you were on watch when all these animals died. And she was like, Beachy, which was my pug that I just loved at the age of 4. I was under understanding that Michi was kidnapped. But she put this on my heart and I almost started crying that my mom might have lied to me because I was so young and Michi might have been dead and not kidnapped.
How did Michi die?
I don't know, but I've always been under the impression that Michi was kidnapped.
By who, Brandy?
I don't know.
So in your mind, someone kidnapped them?
My whole life, I've been thinking Michi was kidnapped. Now there's a possibility that Michi was dead. And I had to catch my mom off guard. So I called her. I said, how did Michi die? She said, what? Michi didn't die. Somebody stole him. But I think she's trying to protect my heart.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's her job as a mom to do that.
As a mom.
Which sister in the order of
second? You know, it was the second one.
The second one after you or the one after that?
Second one after me. She said, you don't remember the police coming? No, I don't remember.
Okay, then that meant that she was only 3. So I'm gonna go with don't trust a 3-year-old because
she didn't say that she knew that, but she was saying compared her daughter's 3, and she wouldn't have told her daughter if an animal had died.
Exactly.
So what she was saying that my mom didn't tell me because I was young, and Michi really had a violent death. And
how old was Michi? Do you remember?
I don't know how old Michi was. But she was like, oh, the police came and the guy who said somebody stole it, the dog was in their window. And I'm thinking,
how does she know that?
That's what I'm saying. She's probably just being
Michi was in the window. Why didn't she tell the police that Michi was in the window so I can have my dog back?
How does she know that all of this happened when she was 3?
No, this is my mom said.
Your mom told her.
Told
all
me,
of this stuff.
this is what
Okay.
I've known my whole life.
Okay,
And then
let's go with what your mom said.
But I'm thinking she
Yes.
might be trying to, because I was a little bit reclamped. I think she was just trying to protect me still.
And I think that your sister is just trying to mess with you, because we know that this is entirely possible with any of your sisters, especially that one. So
I just don't want to know that Michi met a violent death. At least
Well,
if he was kidnapped, maybe somebody took really good
well,
care of
at
him.
this
Until
point, 40 years later, Michi is still dead.
I know, but I just want to know Michi lived out his life, a
He did.
good life.
He didn't. Somebody stole Michi because he looks a
He was a
nice
pug.
looking dog, and they just kept him into care.
And didn't nobody have no pugs in the 80s like that.
I
Because
mean,
my sister said, Mama probably lied
it's
to
a
you
popular dog.
because she was young and she didn't want to tell you that Michi died. And I was like, oh my gosh, my whole life has been a lie.
Wait, this is also the sister who messed up the lyrics to the Escape song horribly for years. So we really can't trust what she says based on what she said those lyrics said.
Well, I told my mom I wasn't going to tell her happy birthday till she told me the truth about Michi.
Okay, first of all, that's dead ass wrong, okay? Because
It sure is.
they got nothing to do with each other. Now
Yes,
you believe in
big.
your mama based on something that your sister said when you was 4 and she was 3, and that your mama could have lied. So your mama should be getting on your sister, because your sister out here telling tales.
I begrudgingly told her happy birthday though.
I think you need to apologize to your mama.
So you think Michi did get kidnapped and he didn't go on to glory that day?
Where was y'all living at the time, Brandy?
We was living on what was we living on?
Geographically speaking, could that dog have been stolen?
I mean, we lived in Rubidoux, so.
Then damn it, a pug in Rubidoux in the 80s got stolen.
It really just hit me like, oh my gosh, did she lie to me
Brandy,
all these years?
Somebody stole our basset hound. We didn't even live in the PJs. We lived in front of the high school. The Mormon people's neighbor. Okay, so we lived on one street, right? And our yard in the back was adjacent to somebody else's yard, and it was the Mormons and these Mormon family, and they were wonderful. They had about 11, 12 kids. They were wonderful people, but they had a neighbor on their street that stole our dog. Okay, a basset hound named Francis. Nobody had a damn basset hound. You know why? Because my uncle worked for the animal shelter. He gave us the dog. Nobody had a damn basset hound. For that dog, we look for that dog. We look for that dog. So we go around there. Finally, we found the dog, and we told my mom where that dog was. My mom went around there and got that dog. People came to our house, very Karenish, because they was, came over. They protested. Finally, they made such a big stink. My mom was like, fuck that dog. Get them people their goddamn dog. I don't care. But the point is, we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood by the school with a basset hound, a dog that not many people have, just like a pug. Not too many people had a pug in the 80s because it was expensive. It wasn't like it was a Rottweiler, or Pit, or German Shepherd. Somebody stole that dog, Randy.
You know where we live? We live right across the street from the Michelin. Oh, right off Rubidoux Boulevard.
That's what I was about to say, on Rubidoux. Girl,
Yeah.
somebody stole that dog. I don't know why you. Oh, they're still stealing dogs off of Rubidoux Boulevard.
Yeah, so I mean, it really hit me hard that Michi could have met his demise.
Michi met his demise naturally. They probably bred Michi with another dog, made some money off of him. And
Michi was like, you better get on my phone, because I was really about to cry. Like, oh my gosh, Michi died.
Brandy, that was 40 years ago.
I'm just saying, that was what's going on today.
Did you just need to cry?
No, it was like,
Sometimes you need to cry and you just kind of,
Find a
no,
reason.
it's just like when you find something, you believe something your whole life, and then all of a sudden it's a lie.
No.
Not 40 years later, baby.
No.
A lie.
Not about it if a pug got stolen or not.
It's like somebody telling your daddy ain't your daddy after 40 something.
That is
After
not
40 years, that nigga's my daddy. I mean, Nobody can come and tell me that my daddy, you know, I found
I guess
another
I'm getting no
your
sympathy
dad.
from
I'd be
you guys.
like, what you want me to do about it?
Within myself, I'll just.
I feel you, but I also think you should apologize to your mom.
Yeah.
I told her happy birthday.
Your sister started that shit. Your mama didn't say nothing. Your mama was
That's
on
who
the
you need to beef with.
because your mama's on the defensive. Why you calling me on my day with this mess? Your sister's the one which you should be beefing with because she started that shit. She for
It
whatever.
probably laughed. It probably laughed.
She is laughing because if she sees this show, she's gonna be laughing.
Yeah, she would be.
Yeah. All right, guys. So thank you for joining us. This is episode 102. Even though episode 101 is officially the lost episode. Okay. So what happened was this. We had a wonderful show. Coming back from a couple weeks off because shit happens. And it was a good episode. And for whatever reason, I can't save it properly. Like I just can't. I will try to figure out how to get that episode out. I'm going to relabel it as a lost episode and just put it out there at some point. But that's what happened. That's why we haven't posted it in a couple weeks. All right. So, besides a football player, there was a serial killer captured in San Antonio, I think it was. They captured a serial killer with 5 confirmed deaths, and then they're trying to tie him to like 12 more through DNA. The comedian DC Young Fly, his longtime girlfriend died. They're thinking it's complications from a cosmetic surgery. They said that she was at a Homewood Suites. They found her unresponsive, in the hotel room in Miami. But then I don't know if she was alone. Was there someone with her? Because typically after you have a surgery like that, you should not be alone. And I don't know how long it was after the surgery that,
Yeah, and they usually have those house moms or whatever.
Yeah, the people that they normally have, well, considering the finance they have, than most people, they normally have like a nurse that like consistently stays with them because they have to do those massages, they have to do all this work for like months.
Yeah.
To get their body right. So I don't know, maybe they stepped out for a second or something.
They said she was found unresponsive. They took her to the hospital and she passed away. She was 33 years old. 33. And I know a lot of people are saying, which is crazy and it's very hypocritical because a lot of people are saying, love yourself. This is what happens when you get surgeries and da-da-da-da, which you could go for a dental surgery and come home and die. So it is what it is. Things happen. Yes, but then on the flip side of it, you're telling someone like Lizzo that you're too big. But don't have the surgery on because the smaller woman died. But when the bigger woman wants to do something, and Lizzo's not, as far as I know, trying to have any sort of surgery. But
she cares.
Yeah. But it's really weird. I just figure like this. If you're happy with who you are, what you have, and you work in your jelly, do that. If you're not happy and you have the wherewithal to do it and do it correctly and do it right with the right doctors, do that. But at any point with any surgery, you are taking a huge risk with any surgery. So I'm not going to judge this woman for having the surgery because Lord knows if I had a good $6,000 or $7,000, I'd be on somebody's table getting a tummy tuck. Yeah, I'm taking the chance. I'm taking the chance, and if my clock's running out, I could stub my toe and check out. So, yeah, that's sad. Any other things in the news this week?
Other than them squirrels outside my window, keeping me up all night having an orgy, no. Not that I could think of.
And we continue. All right.
Not the squirrels.
Squirrels have an orgy.
Every night.
In Huntsville. So we just having orgies down in Delta, huh?
They're on the side of my house. I could hear them just scurrying in. all night.
How do you know they're having an orgy?
I looked it up. Google is our friend on the Googler. You looked it up on the Googler.
And that
And
sound
that's
is
what they sound like
that
when
sound
they're having-
associated.
Yep, that's the sound.
And they had like a little audio button
Yeah.
so you can hear it.
Video.
Nope.
I was
Where-
just gonna ask. I'm like, oh, they got an audio.
What-
You can Google it. and then-
What did you look up? Squirrel sex?
Yeah.
Brenda, you looking for it?
Yes. Yes. Because
They even had one of them going in slow motion. It was pretty gross. They're out there right now. I can hear them. They ain't even gonna wait till it gets dark. No shame.
hold on.
Hey.
That might not be a good. Hold on, let me see. It just sounds like squeaking.
Exactly. And did you lean in, Jackie?
Yes, because I want to make sure that if this happens, I know what sounds to look for. We have a lot of squirrels.
I don't want to know. Okay.
You just found out.
But I don't want to. I just heard a lot of
I mean,
static
but
squeaking.
there's two different. I mean, we don't know. Maybe they
I don't
must
wanna
be
be
sitting
able
on
to-
your windowsill.
I don't want to be able to differentiate like, oh, he getting it in. You know what I'm saying? Oh, with a squirrel. Like I don't want to know.
I'll be sitting here pissed off. Can't just look at the ceiling mad. I want a two-piece every last one of them.
So Cassius is still there? Well, good. Good. We're glad he at holding.
For right now, anyway.
We're glad he holding. All right, let's talk about the most popular family in reality TV besides the Kardashians, which is the Duggars. Is it the Duggars or the Duggars?
Duggars.
In the
The
Duggars,
shiny happy people.
Shiny Happy People on
Duggars.
Amazon Prime. There's another family called the Duggars or something like that. Isn't
I
it?
don't know Duggars. I just know Duggars.
Duggars. Okay, so Duggars. So this came out this past Friday, June 2nd, on Amazon Prime. It's a 4-part series, basically about the rise in their popularity from a very prolific family as far as having children to being the most popular family on reality TV. So they start off with 19 kids and counting. It wasn't 19 kids at the time. It was like 16, 17.
16. I think it started at 16 kids a
I
count.
remember I think the earliest they were going to start was 15. I don't know if they actually started at 15.
She was pregnant already, probably. And then it just continued until it was 19 kids and counting. And then in 2015, it stopped because their oldest child, Josh, got convicted of child pornography charges and got convicted and sentenced to 12 plus years in prison. So basically the documentary starts, talking about them as a couple, their family structure, whatever, but then it also goes into what their religion is, which I really can't figure it out. Like, they're not traditional Christians, but they do go off of very
They're
specific.
still considered Protestant, but I guess would be their denomination, but they're still considered Protestant.
The IBLP website, which I found out that there's an office in downtown Dallas, which is crazy, and when you really think about it, it's really not.
Well, they said in the documentary that they had the different headquarters, and that one was in.
Yeah, there's one here in Dallas. It's very close. Like I could probably walk to it when I'm at work. I'm gonna go in there and see what they can tell
I
me.
would say you should go in there.
Do they even like Black people?
I don't know.
You know what? On that documentary, in that choir of 150,000,
No, there was one.
I looked for and there was one.
But she was biracial.
No, it was a
No, they had
chocolate
a
boy
dark
there.
skin one.
It was
It was
a
a
dark.
chocolate boy.
Oh, I saw one biracial girl in the choir.
I saw Chocolate Boy.
He probably was
And-
probably adopted.
And there was a part in there where they were talking about rock and roll music or something, and there was an article or something, they talked about how this was voodoo from the wilds of Africa.
Africa.
That's exactly what it said.
So that reminded me of that fundamental Mormon bullshit where they talk about that we're demons and whatever, and how Black folks.
Our skin got dark because we were the angels cast out of heaven.
Mhm. So yeah, they don't like us.
Because I always was like, why the Duggars don't have no Black friends? Because they are in Arkansas.
Little Rock.
Exactly.
Little
Little
Rock.
Rock.
Little
And they
Rock.
see no Black folks ever.
Well, and they are very.
You don't see a lot of folks with them anyway. I mean,
They're-
Why
very-
one Black person come over, but it was for some. But for the most part, when I seen that one Black person, I was like, what are they doing there? But for the most part, for all the seasons that they had, they did not have not one Black friend.
Well, I mean, the kids are homeschooled. They have no outside, at the time, didn't have any outside influences or anything like that. These people weren't even supposed to have TVs. If they did have a TV, part of that IBLP thing was if they did have a TV, it was only supposed to be connected to a VCR. You could only watch things that were sent from, from the organization so that you could watch and crazy shit like that. So basically everybody knows they got 19 damn kids. They got married in 1984. Michelle was 17, Jim Bob was 19. From 1988 to 2009, that woman was pregnant for 22 years. For 22 goddamn years. She stopped with baby 20 because she had a miscarriage at baby 20 in 2011. Otherwise, she'd have probably kept on going. Because that one almost took her out. I know we go out of when we talk about anything on this show, we go out of order. We just kind of talk however it comes to us. Now, one thing was crazy when we were reading about the last baby that she had. So she went to the doctor. So one of the girls, I think it was Jill, she said that she didn't hear a heartbeat November 25th.
Yeah, I watched the episode, so I remember that.
And then
remember
she
that
goes
episode
to
too.
the doctor and they said she had a miscarriage. She didn't actually deliver the baby until like December 12th.
Yeah.
No, she delivered the baby right after. She delivered the baby. She was there. She delivered the baby. And then they came home and they ended up having a funeral a little bit later than when the baby actually was born. But she delivered the baby. Why? Because they had to go to a specialty hospital. So she delivered the baby at the specialty hospital
Mhm.
and then went home.
Okay. Because I guess it was just conflicting stories that I kept reading about like the timeline. And I was like, did she keep that baby? Because I think I watched the show off and on, like for the first couple seasons when it came on, it was fascinating, these people with all these kids and how they navigate life with all these damn kids. And then I stopped watching because it was just weird to me. It was just weird. There's something very weird about that soft ass voice that Michelle has that just drives me up the damn wall. No.
My thing is she's had all these kids, which, you would say, oh, they have a healthy sex life. But then when you get into their beliefs and stuff, like
There's no way.
it's basically one of those, I don't even know if it's tap your shoulder and roll over. It might just be, I don't know. Like, I have a feeling that she's probably had all those children and never enjoyed sex, not even one time.
I think if she did, based on the religion, based on like comparing it to other fundamentalist religions where women are treated like that, and then what everyone else is saying, the people who got away in the documentary, that if you did feel pleasure from it, you would confess and think that something was wrong.
You were dirty.
That you were dirty. The girl who said that Well, she bought tampons and
Yeah,
they took them from her, and like she destroyed her future husband's chance at breaking her hymen and having her
And her
virginity.
virginity.
And she had to sit in the room, and they called them what, demon sticks or some shit like that.
demon sticks. Mhm.
Like, for
Yeah, I
real?
never thought of that. If you enjoyed any of it, you would be considered nasty and just.
Which they talked about it from the ATI book or ABI book,
ATI.
booklet that they got. So they talked about it because she definitely brought up how anything like they weren't allowed to enjoy pretty much nothing. And anything that seemed enjoyable had to be of the devil's work, because why are you getting enjoyment out of these things? Kind of like just to control them, obviously. I haven't watched it, but
Clearly, the men
yeah.
can they can very much enjoy it, because if they don't enjoy it, there's no baby. So,
And also
Or punished. You get punished if you don't let them enjoy it. You get punished.
yeah, that
Kinda
makes me think.
It's kind of like that. Scientology. When I was watching that, I kept thinking this is kind of like Scientology a little bit, just a little bit. It just seemed to have some kind of connection to each other.
I think they just buy into a different kind of crazy, but it's all crazy. Because at the very root of it, it's all the same. They just have a different, like Scientologists believe in aliens and shit. These people, believe whatever, the quiverful or whatever, and then the fundament FDLS believe in angels and whatever.
So you guys remember when Josh got in trouble for that Ashley Madison, and he was with that prostitute, and the girl said he was trying to do all kind of crazy stuff to
she felt
her.
raped.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, now knowing what you know about Josh now and knowing what he did to that girl, do you think he used to do that stuff to Anna?
Hell yeah.
Or you think he seen her as a little lily flower?
Yep.
I think he did it to her.
So
I mean, you know how much strength you got to take to know that your husband has done all this stuff and still get on TV.
It's not strength.
Well, I guess the word I'm looking for is fear.
That's fear.
To get on there and then be like, he meant nothing by it, and she had that soft voice too, because as they're taught that, yeah, he meant nothing. He's really a good person.
Because
you also have to look at it too, that her family's poor. They live in like a trailer somewhere.
I saw when I watched the episodes when they start linking up, and they were poor.
She not I don't want to say this and be offensive at all, but I think she has some developmental challenges.
Well, they're all stunted.
So she's not like, okay, so they're all stunted because they're just homeschooled. But I think Anna has some further actual developmental things, not just that she's isolated.
I don't think so, especially seeing Anna's sister. Anna has some sisters that are not in the faith, and she has some sisters that's very much in the faith. They all act the same. So if that's the case, the whole family is developmentally delayed.
Okay.
I think she might be socially delayed and just delayed, period, because I think she might not have been as strict as the Duggars, but I think she was out in the country living in that trailer.
Yeah, and her father really pushed her marrying them because it's basically a step up.
Her father wrote a letter for him to get out of prison.
But see, you remember when the Holtz, Josh's first girlfriend's parents, and they were friends of the Duggars, when they found out that Josh had molested several girls, they went to Jim Bob and was like, hey, you need to say something. When were you going to say something? You want this boy to marry our daughter. Remember, he said you were just going to let
that was
daughter be the experience so he can do this stuff to her and stop doing it to other people. And they were like, well, yeah.
Not only that, you're going to have children with him.
So basically you need, and apparently that's a thing that they do in this, the boys, the young men do things and commit these crimes. They cover it up. They don't say anything. Then they get them married off so they can use the wife, the super obedient wife,
to do all his sexual fantasies.
So he can basically like the prostitute said, and I'm not
But the
saying
thing
it's true for
is, but the
everybody,
thing is,
but
for Josh, it wasn't just about sex. It wasn't about sex, and we know that because he was looking at child porn. He got convicted for child porn. If it was just about sex, why not look Playboy or porn or something? Why? It's way more than just sex. It's about messing with children because he got in trouble for child pornography.
but I think the problem with Josh and other people in these fundamentalist religious groups that are very sexually and socially repressed is that they are allowed. So the father is the head and everybody obeys the father. By extension, everybody obeys the boys, right? Boys get to do anything. You cannot deny a man anything. So you have these little girls, so you have these boys, and they said that it goes by who the authority goes to the oldest boy, right? Over any woman. So you have these children, these families with all these kids with this huge age gap between the oldest and the youngest, right? So you have this boy or this young man who is in control of all these little kids. So he doesn't have any social interaction. He doesn't know how this goes because all they tell him is, you can't have sex until you're married, but we
And
give
not to change your younger
authority,
siblings' diapers.
right? Not to change your younger siblings' diapers. So it's all this repression, because if you tell me that I'm not supposed to do something because that's bad, guess what I want to do? I want to go find out what it is.
Yep.
And you give them authority over everybody, and then you don't tell them about themselves. You just tell them, don't do it. Well, I don't care what kind of religion you're in. Your body is your body. Your natural inclinations are going to be your natural inclinations. It's going to come out somewhere. And if I have authority over you, I'm going to use you to fix whatever's inside of me. So now you got this grown ass man, and we can talk. I'm going to like go way off. Years ago, and we're still talking about it now, is R. Kelly. R. Kelly was abused as a child, right? His sister at a certain age abused him. So in my theory, this is my opinion, y'all don't come for me, that the reason why he likes young girls is because the person who showed him his sexuality was at that age. So everybody after that, he associates sex with people that age. Josh and maybe other people like him associate sex with people who are much younger and kids, because this is where it came out at. Most teenagers, we get to grow organically and we are attracted to our peers, right? We go to school with them. Of course, I'm attracted to the boys in my class because we're all the same age. He can't be attracted to other girls in his class because he doesn't go out. The only girls that are available are his sisters, and they're much younger than he is.
Yeah, this whole thing is just so crazy, because the guy who's supposedly handing down the laws of what childhood and marriage is supposed to be is a man with no children and ain't never been married. So what can you tell me about what I'm supposed to do as far as marriage goes, and you ain't never been married and you don't have no children?
That's like, to me, like that spells a pedophile. I'm sorry. The one thing I was thinking this whole all 4 episodes is these are fucking pedophiles. The pastor who brought the little boy on stage and he's preaching and he's in front of all these people and he says, if there was a little boy, I would show you how to discipline and then love him at the same time, or something like that. He says, somebody volunteers a child to come up there. He's like, I'm going to do this and you're going to lay across my lap. Now, mind you, when we were bad, when we were kids, my grandfather my grandmother would say, I'm not going to whoop you. I'm going to wait till your daddy get here. My grandfather would come home. He ain't asked no questions. He ain't said nothing. Only thing he would say was, your mama said to whoop you. He don't care what you did. You can't bargain with him. You couldn't say, Daddy, I didn't do it. He said, your mama said to whoop you. And he would sit on the edge of the couch and he said, right, Sam. That was mean. Lay your ass across his lap. And he was going to give you 5 good swats and send you on your way and give me the next one. Like, Give me the neck. It was 4 of us, 4 grandkids, and we was all gonna get ass whooping because we was all together. But it was never personal. It was never like, I'm gonna whoop you and come here and hug you. Daddy didn't do that. Your mama said to whoop you. That's your mama's job to give you comfort. You bring your ass over here and take these licks and go on. But that preacher, it rubbed me the wrong way, the way he had that man lay across that boy's lap. The boy lay across his lap, and he was.
Didn't he say something? It was like, oh, lady, ask the boy something. And then he was like, oh, lay across here again, because you.
When he said to hug him, he was
Yeah.
showing how you can discipline and then love. And then the little boy gives him a hug, and he said, no, do it again because you didn't hug me hard enough. And then the little boy comes back, because I think the little boy kind of gave him the church hug, the classic church hug off to the side a little bit.
You don't know that man.
Right. So then he says, you got to do it again. So he comes back, and now the man's legs are spread just a little bit. So the little boy is actually wedged between his legs, gives him a full-on frontal hug. And it wasn't short. But just his tone of voice was really soft and cloying and, sugary, and it was sound he had that Jim Jonesy type of voice. And the way he was patting him on I was like, well, this ain't it.
I wonder how Jim Bob found them, because we know from when they said his childhood grew up, his dad was an alcoholic and all this stuff, and his sister is not part of the IBLP. So I wonder how he became part of the IBLP.
I don't know exactly how he became.
Because like we were talking about him on that first date, talking to Michelle about having Bible studies with her
for 4 hours.
Yeah, well, we know that he didn't come from a good family. His dad was an alcoholic and all this stuff. So at what point did he become evangelized to be able to be into the IBLP?
Let me see if I can find that. So they start off as Baptists. So they were Baptists, and then they went into that, but I can't find where it would say.
That's interesting to know. That would be interesting for me to find out. And who brought him in, because I'm sure some of his ideas came from whoever brought him in. But he always seemed like a weirdo to me, even before all this other stuff came out with his weirdo helmet hair and how he was so into his hair. And I mean, he just seemed a little weird to me. And Michelle seemed very fake with that. Like they were saying in there, she's a cheerleader. She knows how to be loud. That fake, little voice, and how they look at each other like this when they're talking.
Pay attention. We always have to make sure that we are kind to each other and not to. I was like, if you don't shut. Oh, it was
about our countenance.
Yes,
oh, I can't stand it.
You have to honor your husband. As a cheerleader, I realized wearing the short skirts were the devil, and I was not getting anywhere. I was provoking random men to want me. Oh my God.
So it's your fault that a man lusted, even if you were covered with just your eyes. It could be her eyes lured me. It's your fault if you're abused or taken advantage of.
Exactly. And this is why you have so much abuse against children in these kind of settings, is because you will always blame the girl. The female will always be blamed no matter how old she is. She will always, the female is always going to be the root of evil. It goes back to this Adam and Eve thing. She's always going to be the root of evil. She's always going to be the temptation. The child blinked at me. She was winking at me. She enticed me.
And the thing is, you wear your wife out till she ain't a bit of nothing, tired and worn, and then you want to be looking some type of fresh young girl because you don't wore your wife out.
Fresh kids.
This is why you would have all these polygamists, and I'm quite sure, I'm wondering why. So according to this Reddit thread here, it says, by inevitable comparison, this is the tag name for this. It says, so they had okay, I'm going to read this. This is on Reddit, so it's out in the public. It says, I know that the miscarriage of Caleb triggered Jim Bob and Michelle, which was, I think this is the child that they would have had after Josh. She was on birth control. This triggered their decision to stop using birth control. Now I'm paraphrasing. When did they become a part of the Quiverful movement / IBLP? Someone says it would have been around like 1995. There's a whole thread, and I'll send this to you guys from Reddit, around 1995-ish. Someone also said when they were newlyweds, because remember when she was talking about their miscarriage, because she was on he said that she was on birth control. She talked about her miscarriage, and that's when they decided not to continue with any sort of birth control, because a doctor told them that it was the birth control that caused her to have a miscarriage, which is crazy, which we know that that's not true. It's likely not true, because you were already pregnant. And at that point, the birth control wasn't doing its job anyway, so it wouldn't have harmed the baby. But, you know, this was years ago in backwoods. So that's probably when they first, you know, got involved. Now, neither of their parents, Jim Bob's or Michelle's, approved of their life and all these damn kids. They just weren't like, what is going on? We talked about Quiverful when we talked about the HBO documentary about the doctor with all the damn kids. He was a part of the Quiverful movement, and a verse in the Bible,
have a quiver full of children is something.
And it seems like that's what a lot of these sects, sects do, is that they will take a single verse or single passage from the Bible, and then they will craft their entire religion off of that, and they take it completely out of context, and then they just run with that. And that's all that's what they do. So everything purity, being a virgin, and being all of this stuff, they'll take a passage that proves their point and just run with it. And that's what they've done with the Quiverful thing.
What was it? Matthew 18? Is that what it was? Was it Matthew 6 or 18? The one where the guy, I can't think of his name, and I'm not great with names. The one after his brother came out with all the sexual accusations against him, and he came out with the Matthew thing so that people will learn not to gossip about. Instead, you go to your brother in private, and they literally took that scripture and made it a whole teaching. Yes, which had nothing to do with what he was doing. Exactly. And that's just a way for them to be able to cover things up. You know, you go in, because if you publicly out somebody, then, and there's no witnesses, then that's gossip. Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing. That's just how they cover up their abuses, is because you have to have 2 witnesses to a crime in order to make it a crime. And sexual abuse typically doesn't happen with 2 or more witnesses. So therefore, the victims have nothing to stand on, because you can't provide the witnesses to us. So therefore, you can't even make a public accusation. It's like all these religions use the same tactics to keep shit quiet. When Josh did this to this girl, they took him to the sheriff or whoever it was. Come to find out, the guy gives Josh a stern talking to and says, if you do it again, there's going to be a problem. Come to find out, the whole time that's Jim Bob's buddy. So Mr. Holt, thinking everything is everything, like this is going to get resolved. No, it didn't. He just got a stern talking to. Then they sent him somewhere, and the kids are like, well, where's Josh? Oh, he's on a retreat. Yep.
And you know, when the first show came, the very first show, when they started to be an actual show, you could see Josh in there with his head shaved bald, because that was supposed to be like a shameful thing to shave his head. You could see in those first episodes his head shaved. So he must have well, they did say that they brought him back because they couldn't explain where he was. So they brought him back home, supposedly for someone's birthday, but it was for them to film the show. But this is my speculation. You remember they used to mess with that family, the Bates? They were the other ones. They helped them build their house and stuff. I think the Bates always knew something about them, because it would be perfect if one of the Bates ended up being with them, since they were such close friends. But not one of those Bates kids ended up with a Duggar. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they
Yeah.
knew something.
I would also speculate. Now, TLC, do not come for me, because this is all speculation. This is my opinion. Based on the fact that after Josh, the scandal came out about him molesting the kids, after that, y'all still dealt with this family, continued to film. And then when the rest of this stuff came out and he was convicted, then you had the other show with the older girls. Something tells me that y'all knew about this shit a long time ago. Because if you continued to film after the scandal came out about child sexual abuse, you continue to film this family and you allowed the Duggars to continue their own narrative about what was going on, that he was just someone who was away from the sharp eye of his parents. And this, Michelle said this, she's like, oh, the thing with Josh, it's just, when kids are away from the eye of their parents, they stray.
And they just touched on the outside of their clothing, and that the girls weren't aware, but we know that Jill was very much aware. And that she
Does it
yelled
matter
out.
if they were aware? That's even creepier. And you're going to say that as if that shit's normal. But again, it might very well be normal in y'all life. But and again, this is you not protecting your children. This is you protecting your male children. But your girls don't mean shit, because you're like, it's just, oh, well, like, you have to endure, because guess what? You're gonna have to endure this with your husband.
So you might as well get used to
You
it.
might as well get started. The thing about the blanket thing, with the kids.
And then she referenced it. So at first when they were saying it, I was like, that sounds wild. But then when they show her referencing it, I was like,
You're catching your kids, and like you're catching them in a sick game, because of course a kid's gonna go to the toy.
Right.
Like the verse that says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, whatever, for this is right. But it also says, parents, do not provoke your children to wrath. To me, that's provoking your child to wrath.
Right.
Beating your kid, a baby, because they're going after a toy that you set there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very disrespectful.
A baby.
Very disrespectful. Again, that is teaching that obedience. And so
that's crazy as hell.
When you never question authority, anything that you want is going to bring you punishment, is going to bring you pain. So if you want this, you are taught not to want things that bring, that, like we just said, you are taught not to want things that bring you pleasure, because if they do, you will be punished. So I don't even want it. I don't even want it. How fucking crazy. Because you have to,
wild as hell.
You have to be obedient to your parents. Because I want a toy. What is she?
This is not in the documentary, but I seen this on the internet in a blog.
The fact that she literally thought like that she hit it. That's the thing. The thing is, she thought that she hit that bite. That was the great part. She thought she got low enough.
We saw the bite,
but it wasn't high. It was still high.
Yeah, we saw the whole thing. You should have just brought it up to your face. But go ahead.
I probably should have. Well, I will next time.
Okay.
But when the women get married, they get this checklist of things that they have to get, like ice packs, ibuprofen, towels, paper towels. Basically, when they go on their honeymoon, it's not to
survival kit.
This is a survival kit.
Sex kit. It's not necessarily to spend time with your spouse, but during that time, you're supposed to be having nonstop sex so that you can have children. So you have all these things, wipes, all this stuff that you're supposed to bring with you on your honeymoon so that so basically you don't have to go out. Like
This
three
is
pairs,
why,
three.
this is why Jill got pregnant within 30 days.
Yes.
You bring like,
but because he seems to love her, I'm sure he probably didn't act as if they, he seems to be a lot different than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But
basically you're going nonstop, whether the woman's in pain or whatever. She only brings 3 outfits, one outfit that the one she arrives there in. So basically you're stuck in the hotel that whole time, and you're just having sex just back to back to back, where you need all of these
And men don't even gotta stand
ibuprofen and
like
all of
that.
these things. So there's a whole list of stuff that they bring.
I am disgusted. I am absolutely disgusted.
So it's not real honeymoon like we would have, where you go out and,
Sleep.
you're stuck in the room, and basically you're having nonstop sex with your.
I can promise you ain't no nonsense. I can
and
promise
mind
you
you,
ain't no nonstop sex tape.
this is your
Forgive
first
that.
time. This is your first time, so that's why you're bringing your own sheets and all this stuff. And you're going to be hurting. So we got ibuprofen and we got wipes and we got all this stuff for you to use, just in case.
And that's another way to associate sex with abuse and trauma and pain. If your very first time, not in a setting where you're being, I guess to me, it would all equate to sexual abuse, but in a different way. But this is supposed to be your husband. And I guess as socialized people, we think of it differently. But what are you going to do at year 20? Like, do you still have to do this at year 20? Just whatever urges he has, you have to fulfill them nonstop. Like, but you already got 20.
And in my mind, they're not prepping the woman. So it's just like you trying to get out of a wet bathing suit, or put on a wet bathing suit, I should say. Because she's not being prepped or anything. It's just on when he says do it, and if you don't really teach that there's supposed to be any type of pleasure or whatever, that you're just doing it for procreation, you're not going to make sure that she's ready. You just going to just do what you do.
She can't use any aids or anything, any creams or any lubes or anything to help her, because that's sinful.
Well, they are to bring lube, I think, because it's the girl's first time, but I'm sure they're not using lube because she says I'm not ready. I think they're losing lube for him, not necessarily for her.
I don't. I can't. This is just
it's so disturbing.
It's so disturbing and so disgusting. And it's kind of like, okay, so now we're in this whole right now, in this very moment, we're in this whole thing about indoctrination with drag queens and rainbows and the gay agenda and all this stuff. But no one says anything about, well, we do say it, but y'all the same people who indoctrinate your kids through religion. You're saying that your kid can't go wear a rainbow t-shirt because they're not consenting to the agenda. Well, they're not consenting to the agenda when you take them to church every Sunday neither. They're not consenting to know or to learn God in the way that you know him. You just keep dragging me to church every Sunday. And Bible study on Thursday. And choir rehearsal on Wednesday. In camp and this and that. But that's not indoctrination, because that's your personal agenda with God. But it's just crazy that you talk about harming kids, and the very thing that harms kids is the very thing that's okay to teach them.
Girl,
and then we have it on TV. We have it on, we're paying a cable network to watch this shit. We are paying to watch the indoctrination. And then you find out years later, this is abuse. This is crazy.
But they're not being paid. Remember that they weren't paid. Grown with a husband. adults. They weren't being paid. The daddy was making all the
Man,
money.
he did them dirty.
Yes, he
He did them
did.
dirty. He had them sign contracts and then wanted to pay them $10
Forward
an
some of them.
hour.
Forward some of their
Only
name.
after $10, only after they said something about it.
Yeah, only after they said $10. 10.
They made, was it Jill and Derek?
Yeah.
They made them film the birth of their child. Made them. They're like, no, you signed a contract and we're paying your dad. They asked TLC, like, hey, can you at least give us enough money to pay for our medical bills? They were like, no, we already paid your daddy. Talk to him.
And food. Remember they were eating from food banks. They had no food.
I don't remember them showing the mom while she was all in the throes of labor. I don't remember the mom being shown like that.
No, neither.
Because
But you remember they set up their own tripod and recorded everything themselves instead of
having the camera crew.
the camera crew. But I still don't remember them ever doing that to the mom for sure. For at least I seen baby
Until the
18
last
and
two
baby
babies.
19.
Until the last two babies.
It still wasn't even like that though.
It wasn't like that, but here's the thing. If you've had 18 babies, do we really think it's a struggle for you? Is it exciting for us to see you have a baby if it's baby 18? You pushing them things out like, you know what I'm saying? Like they do hamburgers at McDonald's, just poofing it out.
And then babies were at home. I think the last
two were in the hospital.
Yeah, they really didn't run into hospitals.
Yeah,
but that baby needed to be because she was so small.
And then Anna had the baby on the toilet. So it was exploitation all the way around.
Anna's still being exploited, I think. I don't think she's even allowed to leave her husband, because where's she going to go with 6 kids, no education, no money, and your dad wrote a letter for your pedophile husband to not go to prison? Where's she going to go? What's she going to do?
Exactly.
And she's leaving a family who has money.
Exactly. This is like taking 60 years back. You know how there's a discussion now going around about how modern women don't stay married like our grandparents did, and you realize our grandparents stayed married. Grandma stayed not, and this is not true for every relationship, but she ain't stayed because she loved that man. She stayed because she was uneducated. She had a shit ton of kids. Women couldn't have a bank account, a credit card, or nothing. Couldn't even take their kids with them. So where was she gonna go? She was gonna stay where at least she had a roof over her head and just deal with it. Because even if she went home, her parents was gonna send her right back. That's Anna's situation right now. Brandy, what you eating?
Yep.
What you eating?
Chinese food, girl. I'm hungry.
I'm just gonna say, it look like rice.
Yeah, what did you eating? Okay.
Yeah, but Anna, she gotta stay. Where's she gonna go?
Yeah, she has no choice. And it's so crazy that your husband is convicted. Maybe having a technical issue. Oh, she upside down. Jesus. Oh, Lord save her. Blair Witch Project. You're just all over the place.
My stuff was rigged up, girl.
Your husband, scandal come out about your husband molesting his siblings. You had little girls. Then come out another sex scandal, and then child pornography charges. And like Jackie, you said, you have to sit there and smile and keep that nice, well-modulated voice and defend him. Defend him.
They said, baby, they went up in that business. We had got alert that you're watching kids stuff.
And he was like,
that baby said, well, what was it on my devices? It was on your devices.
He was like, yeah, that's why we're here.
We're paraphrasing. Yeah, it was on yours. That's
why we're here.
Really? I may have. I'm not quite sure.
I'm not saying I'm not guilty.
But I'm not. Then the daddy gonna say, tell the friends that it was some convicted con that worked there. An ex-con that worked there, and he downloaded the stuff on the computer.
So now you and your Christian self is lying?
Ain't that what that man said? He said they just lying. He's just lying to everybody.
And then He comes out because even the son of Derek said that they made a statement. They were able to make a public statement about the scandal, about the child pornography charges prior to them being formally announced. Then, so they're acting like everything is everything. Then the family finds out, well, he already knew about this stuff. So clearly your fix, sending him off to a work camp, getting him married off to Anna, didn't fix it. Then you have that Covenant software, whatever that is the dumbest accountability software. Accountability software is stupid. That if you go to a porn site, it's gonna alert a trusted friend. For what? Just get the man some help. Because Jackie, if I give you access to my browser and you see porn pop up and you're like, Randy, what are you watching? You shouldn't be watching that. Okay, well, guess what? It's gonna pop up in another 15 minutes when this video goes on. So how is that helping me? Because it's no accountability for me. It's just you calling me to tell me, oh, you did a bad thing.
And who is Anna? Who is Anna to tell him? Who is she to tell him?
Right, because he ain't gonna listen.
Was she the accountability person, or was his mother or his dad?
I thought it was Anna. I thought it was
Anna.
Who is Anna to say what he can and cannot do? He's the head of the household.
He's the head of the household.
What power does she got? She ain't got no power.
Right. He's the head of the household, and then your parents rule everything. So she's already overruled. Anna at this person is lower than dog shit because they are funding her. And if she says anything against her, she's going to be like Cinderella. She's going to be the workhorse of that family. She probably already is.
Or if you were doing this to your husband, he wouldn't have been looking at.
Oh, she already heard all that. See, this is why it's important that you're available to him, because see, the devil works on the mind of the husband. If you're not a wife that's doing your duty, and your duty was to keep laying asleep with him, therefore it had to be your fault.
Mm-hmm. And I know they did it. Anna has no money because anything they used was used to fight his trial or to send him. Do you know this fool was sitting up in prison? He ended up going to ADSEC because he was just on his bed looking at a cell phone. He's not allowed to have any type of, even when he gets out, he can't have any type of internet usage. Mm-hmm. He's just sitting on his bunk, just going through a cell phone online. Like, not even trying to hide it. Crazy. So that means whoever phone that was, it got taken away. I'm sure that his family had to pay money to whoever's phone that was,
so they could use his phone.
Mm-hmm. And his parents sent the money because that's the golden child.
Hell yeah.
Even though now they're grooming Jed to be the next in line since Josh is away. Jed now is the one next in line he's starting to do interviews and whatever.
And he's like running for office. And even in the middle of this scandal, when Bob was trying to run for office, like, bruh,
like, seriously?
Sit down somewhere. The audacity that you have to run for public office in the middle of a federal pornography scandal. You can't run off of family values if your son is a convicted child predator.
And then you talk about no kissing before marriage. Your son did all kinds of stuff before marriage. What he needs to save his first kiss for marriage for?
Listen, I can understand restraint, and I can understand teaching, hey, why don't you save something for your wife or your husband or whatever, but it's not even abstinence. It is just denial of any part of self.
No touching. Mean that no kissing. Not doing anything. Don't touch, don't kiss.
And then she's like,
get a chaperone.
We'll teach you how to kiss. You can watch us kiss. That shit was dry as sawdust against the goddamn wall.
And that's what I've heard from
drywall. That's what that kiss was.
From people that were virgins when they got married, that it's hard for them to have sex the first time because their whole life, it's like, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. And then you finally get to where you're time for you to have sex, but that's still playing in your mind that sex is bad, don't have sex, don't have sex. So a lot of them have problems having sex the first time when they get married, because you're trying to get past that sex is bad, don't have sex, that you grew up hearing your whole life. Now, let's take it a step forward. You can't have sex and you can't kiss or you can't do anything affectionate. So how on your day, the day that you're finally allowed to do these things, and you've been denying it and not doing it and hearing how bad and everything it is, how do you even kiss?
That's crazy. You don't even know how. That's a part of socialization. That is the part of, and I'm not saying that we should sexualize, because you guys know I'm not about sexualizing kids at all, but growing organically into yourself. Like, you discover things when you should discover them. If you were among your peers or children or people your own age, and things just happen, like you hear things from an older brother or older cousin or whatever, you see your parents be affectionate. That's how you know what that looks like. If your parent has a healthy relationship with the other parent or with someone, a healthy relationship, then you'll see how the relationship and the interplay happens. But if there is no, because I can't see Michelle and Jim Bob just holding each other or hugging or touching a hand.
Well, they do that nasty kissing thing, but I don't know if that was just for
Throw
TV
that in
or what.
drywall, meeting sawdust. There is nothing but.
You have to see your parents interact, but you also have to be truthful with your kids and talk to them about how their body's changing, about healthy sex relationship. They don't get that. They
No.
don't get what you start bleeding one day. You don't know why. You don't know what it takes to have a baby. You don't understand that the reproductive system and how it works and how you even have a baby. They don't even teach that. So yeah, you see your parents interact, but you also have to have that healthy education of what sex is, what your body is. I started that with my kids young, because I to this day is waiting for the sex
Me
talk
too.
Girl,
to this day. And
girl,
that's probably because
you know what? My
my
mom is
mom
telling me now, I
probably,
ain't never gonna get it. She ain't never gonna be able to tell me nothing.
and that's
She
probably
ain't gonna
because
tell me
my
nothing.
mom didn't have the sex talk.
That talk, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
asked my mom about a year ago, we were talking about whatever, and I asked her, why did you never have this conversation with me? And she says, because I never had it. So I just figured you figured it out like I figured it out. And what I asked her was, how did that work for you? How did it work for you? You just figuring it out. And she was silent for a minute, and she just kind of was like, like, I don't know if it ever clicked on her that her figuring it out wasn't the thing to happen, because you figuring it out, how long did it take you to figure out what you were supposed to be doing for you? You knew the fundamentals of it, what it took to have a kid, because there was sex education back then. But how long just you figuring it out as a teenager and as a young woman, because no one told you anything? And if they did tell you something, it was just do it and get it over with.
just don't do it.
Yeah. While you young,
Don't need nothing else, just don't do it.
when you
So
get
that's
married,
why with my kids, I was
didn't want them to do that. No, because
from the beginning.
you
From the
have to
beginning.
know, let them know that your body is gonna go through things, and this
And
is
it's
what's
normal.
happening. And it's normal for that to happen.
No shame in it. There's no shame. Having sex is not a shameful thing. God created sex, so there cannot be shame in sex. There's nothing shameful about having sex. And I think that's just outside of the IBLP. I'm just thinking as Christians as a whole, they put the fear in you not to have sex so much that they make sex shameful. Like,
and things that are shameful are often pleasurable, the most pleasurable.
they put so
We
much
know
shame
this.
into sex that it's bad, this and that, when sex is not bad. But they put that fear into you that where you think if you have sex, that's just the worst thing that can happen. And sex is bad and dirty, and your body reacted to it. Naturally, reaction that God gave you is nasty and dirty, and they just flip it and make it just something that's just nasty.
And think about it, when you repressed sexually, like you were saying, it's nasty, and things that are what we consider to be shameful are often the most pleasurable things. The things that drugs, illicit drugs, things like that, things that they tell us not to do. Those are the things that bring us the most pleasure. So guess what? I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in private. I'm going to do it in the dark. And the things that you do in the dark are the worst things possible, because you go down a slippery slope further and further and further and further into debauchery or whatever that is, because this is more shameful than that. And you can't get out of it. And so you start doing, these old men, old women, or whatever, even the young folks, think about how sexually repressed these people are. I was never able to have sex, and women weren't attracted to me. So I'm going to do the shameful thing. I'm going to do the nasty thing. I'm going to do the things. I only have access to the things that people don't do public. So in this case, Josh only has access to what he cannot do publicly. He cannot express himself sexually or just as a natural person publicly within his family. So it's always going to be, when the lights are out, sneaking. Because if he can express himself publicly, he can be, and I'm not saying people should change their values, their core values of keeping your kids, but you can't even tell this young man why he's feeling like this.
My thing is, who messed with Josh that he was unable to tell his parents? Was it because he felt guilt and dirty and whatever that it happened to him, and so he didn't share with his parents? Like, who did something to him that he felt he couldn't tell his parents about because he felt a certain way?
I don't necessarily think it. I mean, it could have gone like that, but I don't necessarily think that that's what happened. I think that because they are so very strict and repressed, that
I'm just saying, because
he couldn't tell them, because I've sinned. I've done this, and it's sinful and it's nasty, and I've sinned, and that's the worst thing. So I can't tell my parents that I've done something like this.
I'm thinking just because the fact that it seems that abuse, sexual and physical and emotional abuse, is so prevalent to me that it seems like it possibly could have happened to him too, because it just seems like it's very prevalent.
Yeah, but I think it's more prevalent we haven't heard about it happening with boys in this particular group yet. I won't be surprised if we start hearing after that documentary that we start hearing about boys. Because again, that preacher and even Mr. Gothard,
he got in trouble. Didn't they say it was something about him messing with boys too? Gothard?
Yes. And here's the thing.
They did.
We haven't talked about this, but Jackie, I know you know this story. Okay, so back in the 70s, there was these kids that went missing, 70s or early 80s, that went missing in Michigan. And they never found out what happened with these 4 kids that just all of a sudden went missing. And then they would find these kids in Michigan, in the upper area, upper part of the state, in the cold. They would be, they would be kidnapped. Then days or weeks later, they'd find them with their clothes on, but they would find out that they'd been sexually abused. Come to find out, some of these kids were taken to an island in the Upper Peninsula, very well-connected people. It was like this like
sex tourism.
Epstein's it was very similar to Epstein's Island, but it was happening in Michigan. They mentioned, and this might not be connected, but it triggered in my head. They mentioned that Gothard's brother, when they sent him away, they sent him to Michigan, and that there was a camp in Michigan where they would send the disobedient people to be punished. And I was like, that's about a bitch, because this reminds me, I was like, did he have a part in what was going on with those boys in Michigan all that time ago? Like all of that triggered. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we start hearing about young men coming out, because they also talked about how the Joshua generation were all into politics and whatever. And what's the little handicapped boy that was in Congress that got ran up out of there, one in the wheelchair? Something
I know you're talking
Catholic.
about.
He's a part of that religion.
And he was talking, he, first came out as
He was talking
the good
mad
wholesome guy, but then he started talking real reckless.
and guess what they found on him? That's why he ain't in Congress no more. They ran his ass up out of there for also sexual misconduct. Well, I don't know if it's
In
sexual
that chair.
misconduct. Him in that chair doing what he was doing with men. So it's a lot of that going. So it's kind of like, you're protesting too much. You're projecting all this shit out into the public about homosexuality and transgender and purity.
Hello?
Y'all are busting hell wide open.
Hello?
Y'all, we are having some technical difficulties. I should have that one thing that comes through that says, okay. You back? Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, you guys can unmute yourself.
Do you remember that the thing that Josh was working with before he got with Ashley Madison? The wholesome, what was it? Family values, something.
Hold on, let me go back to it.
He was working and they moved to Washington, I remember, on the show, and he was working for the wholesome family values something. And then that's when he got caught with the Ashley Madison.
Yeah, it's called Family Research Council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, you.
But see, again, this is what happens. You guys get into these public arenas and they're so vehement. It just spewing all this shit out there about homosexuality and and family values and this and that and the other. And in the meantime, y'all are doing the absolute worst. You
How
guys
are you just so
the absolute worst.
You're just
That's
full of yourself that you think that you can go out and do all this stuff and your stuff not come out. That's what my
because
thing
they
is.
have the support of their community. And another thing I think that what happens,
Yes, they do.
You're so isolated that you think that you are big fish in a small pond when you're in your community. And your community protects you. They protect you. But when you get out in the world, you got internet sleuths that's just waiting for you to say the wrong thing.
And I guess he had got away with it for that long.
But you get your Twitter fingers acting up and you're like, because listen, you could be on TikTok or on Twitter and say the wrong thing and somebody would like, find them. Do you think?
Yep.
The dude who snatched the girl wig off last week.
But I'm talking about they wiped him out in a day.
Find him. The lady
lawyer.
The lady in New York who with the
bike.
With the bike, find her. Find her. Not only find her, find all the stuff about her. So it's that quick. And that's one thing that I don't think some of the communities, some people don't anticipate is how quick we are and how smart people are and how big the internet is. It is infinite. And if it's out there, it's always out there. And somebody gonna see you. Now, this is unrelated, but
wait, have you seen that lady on TikTok?
Which one?
She's so good at finding people.
Yes.
They'll be like, okay, find me. She'd be like, okay, bet. And I'm talking about they'll use a rant. She can find them with names like user 236789773.
She's like, because your wife has a birthmark right here. And then I saw that somebody was in a picture with a birthmark right there, but it was on the other side. So I flipped the picture and then I found where she works at. And then she also works at this place that was displayed on a ball cap of somebody behind you. And you're like, so your name is da, 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 da. You live here, you work here. She's good.
I'd be like, God.
She's good. People try to challenge her. Yeah. But also, this past week, I'm going to tell you how quick the internet is and how you got to watch yourself. So somebody went into a gay club in Atlanta, and it was a very crowded night. And they took their phone and they filmed inside this club and posted the video. Girl, how many fiancés found out, fiancés and wives and church folk found out that they men folk when they life was at this gay club. It's a very popular gay club and it was packed.
I mean, it's not surprising though.
No, but I'm just saying that this is how quick it can happen. And they're like, oh my God, why is my fiance is there? Or you could be on Tinder. Tinder is a locating app. So if someone else has their location on and has Tinder up, you will know in the room. This guy that I know, we were at work and he was like, watch how this works. He turned on his Tinder app. He's bisexual. Turned on his Tinder app. And I said, we at work. We are at work. And little pop-ups came up about who was on Tinder. I said, oh,
wow.
Yeah, because it tells you the distance from that person.
Yes, it does. So that's how quick things, but I don't think some of these people understand how quick the internet works and how people who are not even a part of your community or not even affected by what you do, will find you just because we ain't got nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened with Josh Duggar. That's what happened with the congressman in the wheelchair. I forget his name, Catherine. What that boy name is? It don't matter. So okay.
They'll see when they watch the documentary.
So just to wrap up, what was your overall, like, as far as documentaries go, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you like this one? Like, how thorough did you think it was? How interesting did you think it was on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm gonna say about a 7.
Okay.
About a 7.
Yeah.
About 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I would say 7. I think that I'm going to give it a 7 because it was interesting. But I think that with 4 episodes, it could have went a little bit harder.
Yeah, deeper
areas.
Yeah.
Still kind of going a little bit soft with them. But I mean, it was still good and entertaining. There were some things that I hadn't thought about with the Duggars or hadn't made connections. So
and I wondered if some of that had to do with because of Jill and the other sister. So I'm like, were they just trying to, not make them, have to relive too heavy? But I kept thinking, like, I know y'all go a little harder than this now.
Like, come on. I want to read Jill's book. I definitely want to read Jill's book. I think she probably went deeper in the book. And I want to know about that one sister who's 30-something years old, has not gotten married yet. The real pretty one.
So that one is Jenna, isn't it?
Jana. Yeah, Jana.
Let me go back.
It's Jill, Ginger, Jana, Johanna. I can't name all of them.
Hold on.
I ain't gonna lie, I used to like when I used to hear them say their names. They used to be one of my favorite parts when it came out.
It's
them going to the names. Genocide, Josiah, all that. Yeah.
She got charged with child something about a year ago. Child welfare, something. The kids were, something happened. But she's the only one who's not married. She recently moved out of the home, but I still think she's under Jim Bob's thumb. She might live in one of the homes that they own, but she has not married. She was going to go to college, which is a no-no for them. They're not supposed to go to college or anything. But her life is very quiet. She was with child endangerment. She was charged with.
Mm-hmm.
But she's 30-something, never been married. She was living in the house. She's not living in the house now. I think she was talking about going to college, but I don't know if she went to college. But I wonder if she's not getting married because of how she grew up and some of the things she saw.
Okay, so she was supposed to get married. She was in a relationship, and he broke off with her after her brother got convicted or whatever. So she was like dating someone pretty tough. Yeah. She's the eldest.
And dating is very loose as far as the woman's concerned, because any man can walk up and say, I want to court your daughter. And if it's under Jim Bob, as long as they sign Jim Bob's contract, it could be whoever.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, she was supposed to be in a relationship with someone and it broke off or whatever.
She was in a couple relationships that broke up
Yeah.
before Job.
But more recently, she's kind of like broken away from her family and like doing her own thing. And
I don't think she's broke away. I think she's still under Jim Bob's thumb. She recently just moved out, probably maybe about 5 or 6 months ago. And she's not living on her own, in her own place, her own apartment. She's living something that the family owns. So I still think she's very much under Jim Bob's thumb, but she hasn't had anybody come, she hasn't been married off.
she's
And I
30.
think part of that might be her not wanting to get married on purpose. That's just my opinion.
She's 33. Yeah, she's the oldest daughter and still not married.
Because
But
they're
yeah.
supposed to get married young so they can start having all them kids.
Mhm.
She about to go to menopause in a minute.
She's probably hoping that she does. She's probably hoping that she could just kind of fade out and they'll lose interest or whatever and just leave her alone. And stop using them as breeding mares, because this is ridiculous. This is so crazy. And even Ginger and Jill, they still have a lot of kids. Well, Jill has what, 3? Has like 4. So they still have a lot of kids. I think, as much as people, you want to break away from things, you still kind of fundamentally believe certain things. You just don't like the extremes that it goes to. So they might still believe in being very fruitful.
Jill uses birth control. So I know Jill used birth control and she had a miscarriage.
I think
so
so.
She has 3.
One of the
But
other.
I think she's on birth control now. She very much believes in birth control.
Yeah. I mean, because you don't want to be like your mom and be in your 40s.
And her kids also go to public school.
Yeah.
But she's totally broke away from the family. We know Jill, they probably don't even, they say they still love their family, but they don't have anything to do with Jill. Nothing whatsoever to do with Jill.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I just, yeah. You just think, they presented you with this wholesome family, and then you find out. I mean, we talk about the sister wives. They present you with this alternative lifestyle and this wholesome thing, and you find out that Cody is a whole ass monster. That crying ass Robin is a whole ass monster. And you behind the scenes, and you're like, well, wow, that shattered my image of what these people really are. And I think that in the very beginning, you didn't have social media the way it was. So TLC was able to come out and just show us this. And
there were nobodies.
There were nobodies. TikTok didn't exist. Twitter was just Twitter. There was no Instagram or whatever. So now, more recently, you can see the show 2 days before it's supposed to really air, and you're already on Twitter. You're already talking about it. You're already connecting the dots, and you can't hide it.
And Cody he's straight out of Jim Bob's playbook. Them kids don't want nothing to do with him. They're not on the show. They did not get paid. Nobody got paid for real.
Mm-hmm.
They must be cousins.
Yep. Everything is exploitation. That's all this is exploitation. One of the things before we go is Lola. We were watching this yesterday, and Lola said, "How come Black people aren't a part of cults?" I said, "Oh, baby, yeah, we are, and we'll probably have to. There's a couple we should probably talk about."
And really quickly, you follow Voodoo Queen on TikTok. She talks about the cult with the guy named Big Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a church. I had never heard of it until she spoke about it, and she said that it was a cult, but it was disguised as a Christian religion. Kind of like
one. Okay, there's a few. We'll have to get to them because I've seen. I have to find the documentaries on those.
Yeah. And Jim Jones had a whole bunch of us out there.
Yes, he did. Yes. Looking dumb as hell. Oh, sorry.
Jim Jones got his whole style from a cult leader back in the day. that he used to go to his church, and that's how Jim Jones got that charismatic preaching style from.
Yeah,
Right.
he had a whole bunch of us out there.
Mhm. You know,
So-
we'll believe in anything. We'll believe in anything. All right, y'all. We are gonna go ahead and before Jackie
And
passes.
beat Cash.
Well, she put that
'cause he's
fist up, you know,
bad.
it's almost time she's about to do this.
Yeah,
Yep.
she already done tucked that lip in, and we don't want
Oh my
Peter.
God, he's so bad.
We don't want Peter coming after us. So we'll go ahead and end for tonight. I promise that I will do better about this, saving this episode. I'm gonna save it to the cloud, not try to save it to the external drive this time. Cloud has not let me down.
So should we go ahead and tell them what next week? Because we've already,
Oh yeah, so we're gonna
so
talk
they can watch it beforehand.
Natalia Grace. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Natalia Grace. If you don't know who she is, this is a controversy about a little girl who was adopted from the Ukraine. Her adoptive parents said that they were deceived about her age and that she was actually an adult. And there's a documentary. Is that on Discovery Channel?
Discovery, yeah, investigation
channel.
Discovery.
Watch that, and then because the case has been adjudicated at this point, so not only can you watch the documentary, but you can also know what happened, and then all the evidence that came out after it was adjudicated that was not brought up in trial that would have changed everything. Yeah, Natalia Grace. So we'll be talking about that on the next show. In the meantime, enjoy that up. You guys be careful, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.